What's up? How are you?
I am doing awesome. Listen, first of all, Happy New Year.
I know, right? Happy
How you doing?
3 months in, but it doesn't matter because it's
I
gone.
know, I know.
How are you?
I'm good, man. I can't complain. All is well. Listen, I'm not gonna hold you. First of all, I just want to say this means a lot to me. You know what I mean? And
Oh,
I want to say thank you because we've been trying to get you on the show for a minute. So I'm excited. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I know we were going back and forth, and Terry sends her blessings. She's shooting tonight. She's
Okay.
have 3 more days on a film that she's directing.
Right.
But yes, but you
Yeah,
got the
because
other holiday, so hey.
yeah, because we're yeah. I mean, y'all need to come back. Both of y'all need to come back on the show for real because it's a lot to talk about. But listen, you've been in the game for over 15 years now, and you've done it all. I mean, you started off writing novels, fiction, and then making a transition to script writing, and have sold over 15 screenplays. And it's just amazing. Before I even get to some of your, because the thing about you, I'm not even trying, not because you're on the show, is a lot of times when I have guests on the show, I have to do research and everything. But for you, I'm actually a fan of your work. So it's
Oh,
like, no, I really am. And but I wanted to talk to you about, take us back to that, the beginning for you getting started in the business, first of all, as a woman and as a Black woman, when you sold that first book or when you sold that first script, what was it like for you getting started? Challenges that you faced and how you overcame?
man. Well, I started in the business in clothing. So
Wow.
people know that, but I went to school for textiles, started in clothing, wanted to be a clothing designer, and went like literally was a stylist, was working on music video sets. I designed for a company called Rumble Tumble. So I
Yeah.
ended up going into costuming. So costuming was my first venture into this business.
Right.
And I loved being a costumer. I love clothes, but costumers are like the first people on set and the last people on set. I
Right.
promise you, costuming is the hardest, one of the hardest jobs in production, if not the hardest job in production. And I've always had a passion for writing. So when I was a stylist, I started writing music video treatments and giving them to, that's when music videos had budgets. And, it's the business. So it's very sexist. So I think my biggest challenge, or what I remember when I got into this business, was I had to play down, and I do not encourage young women to do this, but this was
Right.
what like I had to do. I
Right.
had to play down all of my fun, flirty, girly, sex appeal stuff because I
Yeah.
wanted to be respected by the dudes.
Right.
By the always kind of was a guy's girl anyway. A lot of cousins, a lot
Yeah.
of men in my family, but I didn't feel like I could be feminine on set, because when you are feminine on set, or you wear something that's a little tight or whatever, you get the remarks, you hear it. This was obviously way pre Me Too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to be respected for my mind and my brain. So that I remember distinctly being the first 5, 6 years of my career, like whether it
Right.
was clothing or managing or whatever I was doing, feeling like I couldn't be a girl on set.
Mm.
Um, and I now, when I speak to young girls, I tell them, still stay true to who you are, to where you're comfortable. But I wouldn't ever recommend that for women, because there's so much joy in being a woman and being a girl. And
Yeah.
you have to flip. It's
Yeah.
like you're on set being all hard and
Yeah.
got to try to be home and be with your girls and then be all girly. And it's too much. Just be who you are.
Be who
Um,
you are.
Stand your ground, and I didn't feel like I could do that in the beginning. So I would
Mm.
have to say that was probably my biggest challenge as a female.
Right.
Then I transitioned after writing my first novel and giving it to Terry, and
Mm.
and wanting to make it into a movie. It was like, come on to LA, let's make a TV show. Let's make this into a TV show.
Yeah.
And my transition from kind of costuming into writing.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Because it's funny because we don't even remember those days of you being a cop, but we remember you writing and everything that, you know what I mean? And,
I don't know
but
that.
because a lot of my followers, like really young people coming up in the business or trying to get started in the business.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've always said is, I remember meeting Will Haygood, who was the associate producer of The Butler, and he was saying that what most people don't realize is before we get a camera, before we get anybody in, you have to have a good script. And in a day and age where anybody could shoot something that looks good, I feel like people are forgetting the importance of writing. And I want you to touch on how important that is.
It's so important. Like, it starts with the word. It starts
Right.
with the written word. And I've seen the written word go bad too, but trust me, you can have all the bells and whistles if you want to, but if your story is boring or flat or doesn't have, the characters don't have arcs, or, you know, you don't have stakes in your movie. We've all seen those movies where we're kind of like, okay, we're waiting for it to start. We're waiting, and it doesn't happen. And it's beautiful,
Right.
but the story isn't there. And we've seen movies that have been kind of plain, but the story was so amazing that you fell in love with the character. So, you know, writers are kind of hidden creatures. We're hidden. We don't, you know, we're not directors. We're not out front.
Yeah.
So we don't always get the recognition. But I think we're fine with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, if you don't have a good story, it's really going to be hard for you to make a good anything, novel, television show, you know, movie. It starts there. And as a writer, you have to get the other people interested in your story. So if it's not put on paper, you probably won't get a director. Director probably won't get actors. You won't get a cast. You know, the rest of the ball doesn't get rolling 9 times out of 10 on a bad script.
Yeah. Now, but you didn't start it as a writer though. So I meant to ask you because the process of even working, because I've seen your movies and the dialogue is real. So I'm like, but she didn't even go to school for writing. Like the process of you developing that. Do you think that some people naturally have the gift, or?
No, I mean, I ended up going back and taking writing classes, and I constantly am in class. You know, I'm constantly in school for writing, and I'm constantly. But you're correct. My 4-year first institutional came from NC State, and it was all 2000 costuming. And then NYU. I mean in fashion, FIT, and so you are correct in saying that. But I do think you have to have a gift for it first.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that everybody can't be a writer. Everybody has their level of writing. I mean, I read books, and, you know, you read things, you're like, oh, I'm never going to be able to write like Toni Morrison. I'm never going to be able to write like, you know, James Baldwin or whomever. But you have to find your own voice. Right. But I would say more than anything, you have to love writing to write. People come to me all the time. They're like, I want to write. I want this. And they, you know, they want the end product, but it's so many hours of stuff, and it's like right now, just to look, this is what my whole workshop is looking like right now.
Wow.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody cares about the dirty, you know, up to 1 o'clock in the morning and writing notes. And I have clients, amazing clients, who give me my scripts and they tear them up. They make them better, but it's like, oh my God, I thought this was perfect, and now I got write all over again. And it's hard, it's heartbreaking, but because I love stories so much, I'll go through it. You know, you go through it, you write 4, 5, 6, 7 times. I have new writers that are like, oh, Miss Cass, I wrote this one time and it's the best. And I'm like, no, it ain't, baby. No, it ain't. I ain't even read it. But I already know it isn't, because I know, you know, my shit isn't. Like, I write these 7, 8 times, and I'm like, is it good yet? Is it good? And it takes that passion. So I would say more than anything, you gotta have the passion for writing. Yeah. Then you get the skill, you get, you know, you go to school, you get all of the other details that you need. But you can have all of that, and if you don't have the passion to sit there for hours and crank out words, you know, it's just gonna be a hard journey for you. It's
amazing because you talked about starting in the pandemic, and I mean, I did want to go back to one of your, it's my personal favorite, and a lot of people would remember this, you know, it's When Love Kills.
Yeah,
you know, and man, I remember when that movie came out, because at the time, and I'm still, you know, working with Urban One, and we had to watch it, you know, in the lunchroom and everything. And a lot of people say, Lysious, you love the movie because Lance was in it, because you went to Howard, he went to Howard. I'm like, no, I said, no. I said, the product speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. But to me, I felt like that movie was a little different, a lot different actually from a lot of other projects you've worked on. And I was interested to know what got you, involved in. Why did you? What were you interested in talking about that theme? Because a lot of you who don't know, haven't seen the movie, it deals with death penalty. So if you haven't seen the movie, and I was interested, why did you get attached to a project like that?
Oh man, what's up, Rodney Perry? Just saw you just joined. Okay, so Felicia Blakely there's a story. So I very, very good friends named Sean Cokes. Sean is amazing, amazing artist, photographer, now gaffer, DP, but at the time he was a photographer. And this is gonna sound really crazy, but one of his biggest accounts was Strokers. Shout out to D. And we used to shoot all these strippers, and they were girls, they were babies. They would come in and with all these hopes and dreams. And I was a little older, and I would just try to talk. I was always trying to get girls out the club. Like, what's your plan? What's your life? And saving money. Right. And the girls would literally disappear. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but some girls will come in, and in 1 week they'd come in, they're like, oh, so-and-so disappeared. Yeah, we don't know where she is. And I'm like, what's happening to these young women? So when I read the article about Felicia Blakely, I actually read the article first, and I was like, this baby, she was a baby that got caught in the game. And I felt like we needed to tell her story so that we could hear other people, other people could kind of learn something, because she was a baby. She got caught up. She got tricked by this pimp. She really thought she loved him. And there's so much entanglement in the story. It's not just a story about this girl who killed these two guys. You know what I mean? She's fighting for her life. Right. And I reached out to her. I went down to DeKalb County. I pulled all her records. I tried to find her. I did find her. I sent her a letter. So I did all of that years before the movie was made. Then I movie made, and everybody said no. Nobody would buy the story. Everybody was like, it's too dark, it's too this. And I was actually with my homegirl T. We were shooting Girlfriend's Getaway 2 in Puerto Rico. Tia Smith, she was my EOC. She was at TV One, and she was like, we were just talking, and she's like, girl, so we're doing this series called For My Man, and I'm, it's all these women who killed for their men, and it's so crazy, all these women that did these things. And one of my stories is like this girl named Felicia Blakely, and I almost I had a glass in my hand, I almost dropped my glass. I was like, Felicia. Okay, so I know Felicia, I got a script, I got her story, I talked to her, and I kind of rolled out the whole Felicia Blakely.
Wow.
And she was like, well, send me the script. And they loved the script, and it got greenlit, and it kind of led into the series. But this was literally 7 years later.
Sheesh.
Me writing Felicia saying, I'm still trying to tell your story. I'm still trying to tell your story, sis. Hold on. And so it's a tale for other writers to know to persevere, because sometimes you're just ahead of the curve. Yeah. And timing, again, you're the written word. It comes first. But what I say is, when we got on set, Tasha Smith, brilliant, amazing job directing, Lil Mama, Lance, Tammy,
it was awesome. Yeah.
Such a amazing experience that one day I remember I was standing on set, and I think I was either talking to Keith or Eric from Swirl, because they produced it. Yeah. And I was watching Tasha do her thing and talk to Lil Mama, and I was like, oh, yeah, this script couldn't have been made 7 years ago, because these are the people that were supposed to be in it. Like, Mama was she wasn't acting 7 years ago. Tasha
7 years ago. Right.
And it's always God's plan, and we don't always know God's plan, but as a writer, we'll get discouraged because people aren't making our stuff soon enough. So I just kept working on the script, and I went on and did other things. But had I not done that, wouldn't have Girlfriends 2, wouldn't have saw Tia, the whole nine. So
you kept it going.
Sometimes you just have to write it, put it down, and keep going, and know that if it's a story that's meant to be told, it will get told.
It will get told.
I never gave up on it.
Right.
Kept putting it out into the universe. Right. And 7 years later, it was made.
But you
story behind When Love Kills.
Right, but you were ready though. That's the other thing. Like
I had the script.
Right.
So many times it was the script I got the least amount of notes on.
Right.
Like I had been writing it for 7 years. So rewrite.
Wow.
Up and be like, look at this script again. Maybe I'll put it back out there. Maybe somebody's ready for it. But I get so many DMs and emails and messages about this script and how it saved them and how.
No, it's amazing.
So
it's and And can I just add, guys, like it was nominated for 2 NAACP Image Awards. Like that says a lot in itself, you know. And Rodney just asked, he was saying, is she still locked up? He was asking.
She is, Rodney. She got life. Georgia, north part of Georgia. We communicate, we talk still. I haven't been able to visit her post COVID. But yes, she is still locked up. I actually was going to try to reach out. You know, now everybody's into reform. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can reach out and figure out what we can do. Because at the end of the day, she did do the crime. You know, she's not guilty. But had she had the proper attorneys, had she not had a court-appointed attorney, she was 17, 16 years old when this started. 16-year-old starting a relationship with a man who's in his 30s, who manipulated her. Like, he never was caught. He never was found guilty of anything.
That's crazy.
Was holding her child, her young son, who actually now is in college.
Wow.
You know, holding him hostage and basically saying, go do this, go hit a lick or else. You know, I know that there has to be some sort of reform of justice. But we'll the whole crazy prison
absolutely
system. I don't want to get into that.
No, absolutely. Now, listen, I let me tell you something. I don't know. I told people, I said, listen, I got a lot of questions because most of my followers are filmmakers, content creators. I told them, I said, listen, y'all got to tune in because tonight's show is the one that you definitely will be a part of. But I want to ask you this. Now, people say, and I'm just interested, like you talked about getting started in the pandemic, and I was interested to know, people are asking, how do I even get into business? I got a script. How do I even begin the process of maybe shopping out? What's that looking like, even with everything going on? We're going to talk about your movie, you know, that came out in March of 2020, you know, Open. That's we're going to talk about that. But I wanted you to talk about, like, you know, you did a recent show about how to ensure your production in the pandemic. And I wanted you to talk about, I'm just trying to get started. Cass, what do? I don't know how to get started in business.
You know, I get that question like all the time.
Oh, of course, yeah.
There is no one way to get started. And that's the hard thing about this business. This business is tough, man. We're like a gang. We're a gang of bullies. They don't let you in. They got to jump you in. Like, it's really hard. But what I can say is, yes, be ready. Yes, know your craft. Like all those things so that when you get the opportunity, you know, people want to get managers and agents right off the bat. That may not happen. The beautiful thing is this. The internet now, with all of these streaming things, you can go on Amazon and put your stuff up on Amazon if you want to. Of course, you got YouTube. You can put your things up. You got Vimeo. You can put your things up. If you are a filmmaker, if you are just a writer and you're like, all I have is a script, I don't have nothing else, but somebody said, jump me in, Cass. Who is that?
I saw that too. If
you're just a writer, I would encourage you, if you're not into any other things, if you have a school around you, if you have any place around you, get a film short, write a short, get with a director. There is a director. There is somebody that directs or wants to direct in your city that doesn't have a script. It's like directors have to have a script. We are a puzzle. And we sometimes get overwhelmed with the big picture, and all of a sudden you're like, I got this amazing script, I want Will Smith to be in it. That shit ain't gonna happen. It just don't happen. It doesn't. Like, you got to use your community first. Right. You can't, you know, people want to get in and reach out to Issa Rae, and I'm not even saying I'm highlight. Like, people get in and they're like, Cass, make my movie. But I'm like, okay, guys, like, I'm already in with the networks. Right. They have standards. It's even challenging for me to bring in new writers and new directors and new people into the game that have no resume. Right. So with all of the film festivals that are happening, everything that's always happening all the time, and now that we're in COVID and Zoom, you can do so much from the comfort of your home. Yeah. So I say, do a film short, do something, shoot it so we have proof. Then you've got something that you can at least send to a manager, an agent. Get IMDb Pro. IMDb Pro, it's like maybe $100 a year. I don't even think it's that much. It might be.
Good investment,
But it lists managers and agents of everybody, like production companies. And then you start submitting your stuff to production companies. That's the easiest way in, as opposed to trying to all of a sudden I'm trying to be with CAA, or I'm trying to be with Gersh, or you know, William Morris or whomever. You know, don't always go for pie in the sky. Our very, very first movie that we did outside of our documentary was with a local network. At the time, it was GMC Network. Then, it became Up. But literally, we got with the director. Her name was Tandria. She loved the script. One of the guys at the network had already reached out to Terry about acting in something, or working with them. And they were a small network that had never done movies, but they were interested in getting into movies. And they literally, Brad Siegel, Leslie Chesloff, they were the executives at the time. They were like, hey, we got, you know, a little bit of money, 250, can you make the movie? And me and Terry were like, yeah. And we took that and we ran with it. We weren't, ooh, our first script, let's go to HBO, because HBO wasn't checking for us. You know what I mean? So you have to realize where you are and work within the confines of what you have, but use your village and shoot. If you're writers, shoot. If you're directors, get out there and shoot something with your iPhone. It shoots in 4K. Come on, like, don't get overwhelmed by the process thinking you need a red camera, a Sony 7000, and you know, all of this stuff. And then if you're a writer, read, you know, books, read your tools, Save the Cat, read scripts. I'm constantly telling writers, read scripts. Scriptorama, Script Plus Pro, I think is one of them. There's so many.
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah.
Go read scripts.
Right.
Find your favorite movies and read the scripts. That will help you become a better writer.
Amen. Amen. Listen, she just dropped a lot of jewels. I got like maybe 2-3 questions before I let you go. I did want to talk about Open, though, because that was your first movie that you wrote and directed, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, yes. March of 2020. And I remember, because again, listen, man, I'm a fan. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I was watching everything, the interview on Sister Circle, like everything. And I remember asking myself, like, is she endorsing open relationships? Is she what's the whole idea behind it? Because, you know, that's like a topic that we don't touch on a lot in the Black community. And I was interested to know, like, what were you trying to say with that movie?
You know, everybody asked that too. They were like, oh, what's up? You're in open relationships? I got a lot of calls, a lot of propositions too. And no, I love telling stories that that we don't talk about in our community. I think as a Black community, I just think we're sexually repressed.
Right.
Like, just don't talk about things with each other, with our kids. It feeds into marriages. So the conversation was born out of my marriage. It was born out of me having conversations with Anthony about fidelity, infidelity. Can people be faithful for 30, 40 years? And if you do, can you forgive them? And if you forgive them, do you always cheat? I mean, literally, so many of my friends, you know, have been in marriages and have stayed in marriages through infidelity. Some of them have break up. Some of them were like, well, this is kind of what it is. And I learned in this process that I have a few associates that were in open relationships, and they got relationships because they were like, well, he's not gonna be faithful, I'm not gonna be faithful, so we better just figure it out.
Yeah.
And that I thought was such an interesting concept. I'm a gymnast. I'm just a little too crazy. Like, it sounds good in theory to be like, yeah, we can do this. But soon as you don't come home, or you know, I'm like, oh, is he with that girl? Like, I would probably lose my mind. I'd be the chick, like, driving around the corner, like, checking to see if his car was there. Yeah. I just felt like it was an interesting story to talk about for our community, because we hadn't seen it in our community on TV. It's in Atlanta. And that was really why I wanted to like start the conversation. I'm a conversation starter.
Yeah, I like that. I'm that way too, you know, with my projects and everything. And I thought it was a good movie. I thought the writing was solid as well, you know what I mean? And I paid attention to everything that was involved in that. And, you know, I also wanted to ask you, because people, you've been in the game over a decade now, almost 2 decades now.
Oh, 2 decades.
Right? Huh?
It's all right. I said 2 decades. I got the
right. You know what I mean? Yeah, and one of the things in a business where people can come and go all the time, a business is ever changing. I want you to talk about longevity, how to attain that, you know, how to stay in the game that long, because I know I want to be in the game, you know, in the industry for as long as you've been, and to continue to be as creative and to put out good work. So what do you think was a secret to you being in the game this long?
I don't have a B plan.
Mm.
I don't really, like, I've always been creative. I've always, I mean, wanted to be some sort of content creator, whether it was clothing, content creator. So other than being a dancer, that was like my only other plan. I
Right.
grew up in LA and theater, and I thought I was going to be an A-Lee and all of that, and realized I wasn't that good to make my dancer. So I was like, I better do something else. And so, you know, I don't have a B plan one. So I think that helps. I never chased money or fame. So when it didn't come and I wasn't making money, it wasn't like, oh God, I'm not making money. People, you cannot get into this industry being scared, because you may not. It's been years I've been like balling. I'm like, ooh, it's about to pop off. Ava and Oprah about to call my name.
Right.
And then, like, sorry, someone's talking to me. And then, so it's like this. And you got to think about it. It's like this for the famous of famous. You know, there are some people, you see them and they ride high and then they just disappear for a minute. So you have to love it with all of your being. You cannot chase it for the money and the fame. That's one. And then prayer, man. I listen to God a lot. I pray a lot. I try to, and as I've gotten older, you know, you get older, you feel like you're closer to death. You're like, ooh, I better talk to God a little bit more. You know, just asking for the wisdom for my career to kind of be guided.
Right.
Love all things. So Terry is constantly having to talk me down, because I'm like, oh, let's do this and let's do this and let's do this. And I try to be nice to people. Like, that's very important too. There is no one site you can go to get work for our job. It is all through networks and connections. And you might be working with somebody that is great, that is amazing. You want to keep working with somebody. You might be working with a complete asshole, and you have to figure out how to make that work, because that asshole that's like your partner right now or your PA might be running the network. And they're going to remember that. And we've been very blessed to get a lot of referrals. A lot of people refer us, a lot of, you know, aside from the good work, because it's a lot of people who do good work that you don't want to work.
Right.
You got to have a good attitude. So I would say, you know, no, in no particular order other than have God and talk to God, because you're going to need that. But being passionate about your work, knowing what you're in it for, and, you know, being nice and kind goes a long way, man. Just, you got to be nice and kind to people, because if not, you won't. It will be very hard for you to sustain in this business.
Absolutely. Listen, I was saying that I love your relationship with Terry, and you guys are just an amazing team, you know, like, but I was saying how a lot of the youngins now look at Terry, she's directing, but Terry started out like on the other side, you know, like acting wise, and even her essence, you know, and now to like, and I was like, when she's on the show, I'm gonna ask her that question as well. But I'm gonna ask you this question too, because she started acting, and I'm thinking, you know, Cas went from doing design to writing to directing. Is she gonna be on the screen anytime soon?
No.
Like,
oh no, no.
Not at all.
Our friends and I have a joke. Like, they're always like, "Ooh, you should do stand up. You should do stand up. You should do stand up." When I tell you, I almost pass out if I have to go on stage, and if I have a panel and I'm behind a desk, I'm okay. But if I have to like this is good because it's Zoom, and literally Terry and I were just having this conversation, because I did a pitch. For a network. Well, it was for a production company, and I looked at the Zoom, and there were like, I don't know, 10 people, and I froze.
Oh my God.
Like, and I couldn't, I was getting my notes. I was like, my managers was chatting with me, and they were like, go to this, go to that. I don't like the camera. I don't like none of that. So no, acting, you won't. You'll see me doing a bunch of other stuff. But Terry,
somebody just said something. I want to address that before I ask you the last question. I'll let you go. Somebody says, do you recommend actors to go behind the scenes?
I've heard that it's great for actors to work with directors and possibly maybe direct something, not necessarily like a big thing, but you get to learn a lot. I definitely encourage directors to take acting classes. And because you have to work with the actors, and I learned this, Terry, I have learned that some of the best directors are actors because you have to talk their language.
Yeah.
So when it opened, Terry was on set, and oh my God, we loved each other some days, and some days I was like, stop talking to me. But I needed her there because there were things I wanted Essence and Keith to do, and I couldn't tell them in actor words. Hard for me to express what I wanted to say. I'm great with camera and technical because I can envision the scene, but that's only half of it. Then you have to be able to talk to the actors. So I would say that definitely as directors doing that, but not necessarily. I mean, I don't know. I think it's always good in this business if you know a little of everything. Yeah. Master one or two things, but you know, be well versed. Why not? Why as an actor, why not know as much as you can about your whole surroundings? Not to say an actor should become a gaffer or put up lights, but definitely the character titles that are directly interacting with you, why not? Why not take a class? Why not? I mean, master classes online for days.
Yeah, I did. I just got one. I got one last year, and I've been watching that myself. Now, I want to ask you this before I let you go, because, this is International Women's Month, and, the theme for this year globally is I choose to challenge. I choose to challenge is the global theme. And I wanted to ask you,
I said, I did not know that.
I choose to challenge, and basically challenging stereotypes, challenging inequality as it relates to women. And I wanted you to close out on this, two things I want you to do as you go out. I want you to talk to women. I want you to talk to women in the business, especially Black women, and how can we continue to challenge these stereotypes? How can we continue to challenge inequality in the business? Talk to men as well, because I think, people forget when we talk about these things, it's not just a woman's fight, but how we contribute, the kind of impact that we're making in that conversation as well is important. So I want you to speak to that before you go.
Okay. Before I speak to that, and I will, because that's a good closing point. Yeah. I shout out my cousin. So I started telling you about my textile and my clothing background at the beginning. Yeah. I'm from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Y'all, I'm country as hell. And I have a cousin who has a clothing line. Okay. I'm so excited that he's got like, so I was like, I'm rocking your shirt tonight. All right. So, first I was like, it kind of looks like a horror movie shirt, but it's his line, man. It's called Thicker Than Water. So it's like fam on the side. So shout out to Johnny. I always call him Johnny Ray. But on Instagram, he is Fields Senior SR.Johnny. All right. Up y'all Thicker Than Water shirt, please. I'm huge on family. Like I am, like, again, you got to have a village. I don't care if it's your family you were born into, or if it's your artist creative family. Like you can't do anything in this business without a village. So yeah, so that's why I felt like this was appropriate for that Thicker Than Water. No,
yeah. We're gonna tag him. We're definitely gonna tag him when we post. Yes. We're going to tag him. We're going to shout him out.
Challenge. Yes. The one thing I can say is, with so many things, be like, support each other. Okay. Please don't tear each other down. So many times people are worried about this business, and they're worried about, if I put my stuff out there, somebody going to take it, or this person did this, or they did this. I've had my stuff stolen. I've had people talk shit about me. Like, I've had the gamut, but I still try to support as much as I can. And give as much as I can. Like that is very, very key. I do believe in a universal law. And I also know that you as an artist, nobody has you. Like nobody has your voice. Nobody can do this show like you can do it. It's 1,000 shows on IG. Nobody can do it like you. Nobody can write like me. You know what I mean? So you can't be so worried about what other people are doing that you just want to tear them down. You have to march in your own path. And that is definitely for Black women, because they always make us feel like only one can be at the top. And that's kind of what it looks like. We always had one Black hot girl, then we had one Black funny girl in front of the camera. Terry used to joke all the time with their auditions. She'd be like, it's the same old Black girl, they're all out there together. At that time, it was like her, Melinda, Nicole,
The usual suspects, right?
Yeah. And, but what I loved about her and what my energy when I was drawn to her is she has such a loving spirit, and she didn't pit herself against them. She didn't even compare herself to them. She's like, we all in this together. We all got to sit together. Sometimes it's your turn. Sometimes it's my turn. So I would say challenge that, that definitely is a challenge. Like don't tear each other down. Like that is huge already in the Black community. Because your voice is your voice is your voice. It doesn't matter. There's never going to be another you. So there's 1,000 Black girls out there. We will all sound differently. And sometimes it's not your story to tell. Sometimes it's the next girl. Sometimes girl over here. I have a writer. There's a writer here in Atlanta. I love her to death, Rhonda Baraka. And there was a time it was like if you were gonna do a Black movie and it was coming out of Atlanta, it was like Cas was writing it, Rhonda was writing it, Rhonda was writing it, Cas was writing it.
Cas was writing it, right?
Birthday is today, actually. Happy birthday, Rhonda. And people would try to pit us against each other. Literally, they would say, "Who do you think is better, you or Rhonda?" And I'd be like, and they would do her the same way, and we would get fed that. And it's like, thank God we knew each other and we didn't buy into it. I'm like, no, we just write differently. She writes this. I'm funnier on the script. She might be more dramatic. We have different voices, so it's like you wouldn't say which is better, an apple or orange. You wouldn't do that, and they don't do that in other communities as much as they do in our communities. So don't fall into that trap. So that would be probably the biggest thing I would have to say, and then just kind of staying strong into who you are and your voice, and not falling prey to people saying your voice or what you have to write about doesn't count right now. Like, we aren't really, Black girls aren't really into sci-fi. You should do comedy, or you should do this, and being swayed by what people want your voice to be. Don't be swayed by that. If you know your voice and you're like, Awkward Black Girl is a case in point. Issa Rae, she was like, my comedy voice isn't that comedy that we kind of normally hear from Black girls. It's this kind. And she did a webisode, and we know Insecure came out of all of that. So stick to the voice that God gave you. Stick to the inner voice that you hear, the writing, what your vision is, and hold true to that, and stay to that. Within this business, not to say you might get called to do a comedy script and you're like, I don't really do comedy. You can try it, but you can try your voice. Don't look and say, ooh, that's what's hot right now, I'm going to try to write like that person. That won't really work.
Amen. Listen, I know I said that was the last question, but I got one more.
It's
what
all
do
right.
you have coming? Listen, man, I said we can talk all day. But what do you have coming up that we should look forward to anytime soon?
What do I have coming? Well, we shot a movie. I have a young mentee. Her name, she's not young. Well, she is young. She's younger than me. Maggie Bush. And we shot her movie. I directed her thriller. She wrote a thriller called Mediator. And we finished it. It's in post. It actually just won Best Thriller at the Toronto Women's International Film Festival.
Okay, that's what's up.
Are putting it out there to be sold. So hopefully it will go somewhere this year. If anywhere, Amazon, it'll be on Amazon. But that will probably be the next thing I have out. I'm currently writing something right now for a network. And I'm just not at liberty to say. And I have an audiobook app coming out.
Okay, that's what's up. Okay. Listen. We got to bring it back on the show, because I'm looking at the live. The live is lit. People are saying you got to come back.
These things going up.
It's a lot going on, man. Like, let me tell you something. We got to bring you back, and we do got to bring Tara on the show too. We got to make that happen.
Yes, we will make that. I will definitely. We try to stay busy, but I will definitely let her know that she has to come on. And I appreciate doing this, man. Your shows are great, and I went back and watched all of them. I was like, okay, let me go back. Let me see what this brother talking about. But no, I love it. I love the positive energy that you give, and you're very uplifting, and we need more of that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Listen, I made a promise, and I try to keep my words, okay, that I'm going to have it here for 30 minutes, and it's 10 minutes over. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's quite all right. And it went fast, because I was like, how long is the interview? This was my 5th thing today, but it's my last. So
thank you.
After that, I'm going to get back to this chaos.
Thank you for squeezing us in, man. Listen, it means so much, because like I said, I've been a fan, and to talk to you, really, this is one of my favorite interviews yet, you know what I mean? Because I've actually watched your process, and I was like, we got a lot to talk about, but once again, thank you so much for coming to the show. We wish you the best in everything you do. You can always come back. Whatever you have going on, you have our full support.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. And I will definitely be back. Once we sell Mediator, I'll come back on with Maggie.
Yes.
and we'll talk. We'll let her talk because she's a new young writer, and she's
Yeah.
actually EP Studios right now doing some stuff over there, and
Right.
have a bunch of babies out working, and I love it.
That's good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You have a good evening too. Thicker than water. Don't
All
forget.
right.
Y'all tune in. Like, I love how it looks on the camera.
It did. No, yeah. And I'm for real. We're gonna tag him on it when we post. We're gonna shout him out as well. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Take guys.